We are not Jake Paul, but we have another knockout edition of the Three Falls podcast ready for you. I am Derek, joined by always the nutty professor Matt Pepper. Matt, how are you doing?
That was quite the knockout of an opening, so I'm doing pretty well.
And Matt, you are going to go the distance to the unanimous decision or the decision with Mr. Michael Punga, who's also joining us this week.
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to be back. Good to be back. Thanks, Derek. Thanks for the intro.
Yes, you last week, so hopefully we don't lose you then.
I hope so. I hope not either. The puppy's doing well though.
That's good. That's good.
But that's okay.
Yeah, you had puppy troubles last week.
Yep.
So this week, I just want to let everyone know that we're doing something a little different. We don't have a classic match to review this week. We're kind of going with a little bit of a different format. And we're actually going to talk in depth about Survivor Series, which happened, by the time you hear this, it happened about a week and a half ago. But you didn't hear our side of it, what we thought of it, and maybe what we thought of The Undertaker's last ride. So let's start off with our little exercise that we do to get our brains working. Since The Undertaker's no longer wrestling, what is he doing in his spare time? What hobby has he taken up? Pepper, go. Be as creative as possible, obviously.
I'm going to say gardening because he already knows how to use a shovel.
Oh, wouldn't that be Triple H?
Yes, but Undertaker's dug graves and put people in them, so.
And he knows how to push up those daisies.
Yes, and on the weekends he can give some free time to help out at the graveyards because he has experience building caskets.
The secret is to talk to the flowers. Michael Punga, what is The Undertaker doing in his retirement? What hobby has he taken up?
Well, I think a lot of his free time goes to hanging out with his beautiful wife, Michelle McCool, and his kids, and his hobby is recreating Easy Rider motorcycle from his days of being the biker taker.
All right. I personally think he is thinking about opening up an Etsy store, but that's besides the point. Matt Pepper, what do you have for us this week?
If Undertaker opened an Etsy store, he'd probably be running the company.
Running what company? WWE or Etsy?
Etsy. You know how many people would buy from Undertaker? I bet he'd do well. All right, so we'll get into your favorite segment right off the bat here, Derek. So
yes,
great.
We'll do
wake me up when December ends.
How emo of you. Wrestlers that passed away on this date, November 29th. In 2012, Buddy Jack Roberts from the Fabulous Freebirds passed away.
Didn't he had throat cancer towards the end, right?
Yeah, he was sick. Yeah, he had the voice box.
Yeah, he had a hole in his throat.
Yeah, he actually died of pneumonia, which, I mean, when you are terminally ill, that is a big factor in passing away.
You know, I really enjoyed when they went into the Hall of Fame, and I think it was they were in Texas that year. It was the year that Shawn Michaels and Undertaker had that match. And I was, I'm not as big as a world-class fan because obviously it was a little bit before my time, but from what I watch, I enjoyed it and all that. And you kind of got me on, showed me a couple of the things. And obviously now it's different. But back then, I didn't know too much about the tragedy of world-class wrestling just came out. But the Freebirds going to the Hall of Fame is really, really cool to see a lot of the footage and actually get introduced to Billy Jack. Was it Billy Jack? Buddy Roberts.
Billy Jack Haynes is a different wrestler.
Yeah. This is Buddy Roberts, right?
Buddy Jack Roberts. That's what I said.
You threw me off with the Jack. You threw me off with the Jack because he doesn't. You don't hear people call him Buddy Jack Roberts. It's Buddy Roberts.
Yeah.
So you threw me
Buddy,
off.
Buddy
You're trying to
Jack.
be
One of his.
fancy.
Oh, he went by Buddy Jack.
I'm doing break dancing, and you're trying to do ballroom dancing. We're two different things here. So yeah, it was really cool to see that. He was quite the character, and it's one of those things. Like he was small. He was short. He was shorter than that, but he was feisty, and he had the beach blonde hair.
Yeah, he was actually he worked in Canada a lot. I think he might have lived in Canada for some time, and
Hopefully
he
not
had
Chatham.
no BC. Anyway, he
Better
he
Chatham.
worked anyway. He worked a lot of territories before the Freebirds. He actually worked world class years before the Freebird thing took off. I think he worked as Johnny Valentine's brother
I
or
could see
son
that.
or something. Yeah. So they paired him with Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy because they were young and wild, and he was supposed to be the veteran. But that they clicked in Texas. They absolutely clicked. You're right. World class is man. I can't recommend the two documentaries, The Heroes of World Class and The Triumph of Tragedy of World Class. One's an independent documentary, one's the WWE one. They're both excellent, absolutely excellent. The independent one I really liked when they went to the Sportatorium before it closed down. So it's just a really cool thing, and they highlight the Freebirds so big in that. So yeah, Buddy Roberts was a big part of that group. And one more passing in 1998 was Giant Haystacks, who was also known as Loch Ness in WCW, that we talked
Oh,
about
wow.
recently from the Dungeon of Doom.
Wow, he passed away in '98.
Yep.
That's crazy because I watched not long ago. I watched like a match that he was in. It was him versus the Giant, and I think it was like World War III, and that was like in '96 or '97. So to think that that was just not long before he passed away.
Yeah. He passed away of cancer in November 29th of 1998. So he was mostly known in
He passed
England.
away from cancer.
Yeah.
Wow, I would have thought a heart attack.
I mean, with his size, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
but cancer is non-discriminatory, unfortunately. Oh, so that's it for the passing. So we'll do some birthdays
All
here.
right.
So here's you'll pop for the ones I'm going to mention, Derek.
Do some excitement here.
So today,
On this date in 1942,
What date?
November 29th,
All right.
1942.
Here we go.
1942, Gene Okerlund was born.
Yeah.
Mean
oh
Gene. I
man,
mean, what can you say?
what hasn't been said already? Like this guy, like he was one of my favorite managers. I was so saddened, to hear his passing. But I'm glad that we're celebrating his birthday, not as we're celebrating his birthday on this day, and he was one of my favorite managers of all time. So
Mike, who did he manage?
not manager, sorry, announcer. I apologize.
Okay, there we go.
I apologize. Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, he talked to so many people.
Oh
He
yeah,
talked to so many superstars that manager and announcer kind of went hand in hand because
we know what you meant. We know what you meant.
I mean, I think the best is what him and Bobby Heenan, in my opinion. Their stints, like going back and forth and their little shticks. He just played the he was just great with Bobby Heenan. So yeah.
Other than Paul Bear, he is the biggest near miss in my wrestling fandom because I was supposed to go and meet him at Comic Con in the States the February, and then he passed away in January. I was like so close.
Well, I got to meet him.
Of course you did.
At Comic Con in
Rudy.
Hamilton, and I'll put him up with most of the people I've met. He was so nice. It was funny because I walked up and I had my Border City wrestling jacket on, and Gene gives me an autograph, and I talk to him for a bit. He goes, and in his perfect announcer voice goes, "What is that?" And I go, "This." I go, "Border City Wrestling."
It doesn't matter what that is.
I go, "I've done camera and stuff like that," and he goes, "Love it."
Nice.
He
You
was.
got a thumbs up from him. That's great.
I would love to meet him because what I was going to
absolutely.
do is I was going to find like a cheap microphone and put like the old WWF logo on it and have my picture taken with him where it looks like he's interviewing me. And I'll never picture.
I sent you guys an interview today with Bobby Heenan, with Mean Gene interviewing him.
Yes.
And it's just classic stuff. And that's going back to the late 70s. Gene was like the straight guy, straight man, mic man, and this is kind of what's missing in wrestling, is Gene could carry the talent in the promo part. Well, so if he could throw to them, he could keep it going. And I like the stickman interviews. That's what I liked about NW Power, because they were bringing that back. Yeah. And Gene was the master of that.
Well, that brings me to the question that I was going to ask, so that's a good segue. I was going to ask you, is there anyone since Mean Gene Okerlund, so not necessarily in present-day wrestling, but anyone within the last 20, 25 years that could be compared to Mean Gene?
No.
So, for instance, if you were talking to someone that's like 10 years old now, and they want to know who Mean Gene is, and you need to compare him to somebody, is there anyone out there that you could compare him to?
In the last 25 years?
Yes. I have somebody.
There's only, there was people I think that could do it, but aren't able to do it given the parameters they're in.
I mean, he was such a like a voice. Like he was just the
only person that I could think of,
indescribable.
The only person I could think of that could probably do that, and I think you've seen a little bit of it, was Renee.
Yep, that's exactly who I was thinking of. Renee Young is the closest to Mean Gene Okerlund that there has been, and probably that there ever will be.
But that's
definitely a good comparison for sure. Yep.
Well, I mean, by that I mean like you could see little hints of it, but that wasn't the environment you could really do it in.
She had, way back when the network launched, a couple years after it launched, she had Renee Young, I think it was called Unfiltered, a little show, and it was the best interview show that they had on there, because you were seeing like the real side, and she could just like talk to people and make them feel comfortable enough that, you know, they'll have a good conversation. I can't put Renee over enough. I think she was fantastic.
Well, I remember her days of back when she was on the Sportsnet as well, and doing the score and doing like the after Raw or after Smack. I think she did after SmackDown too. I'm not sure.
Those were Pepper's favorite days.
No, not at all.
Well, my point of bringing that up is that, like, even the back and forth with, you know, wrestling fans like that, she was able to just create conversation out of thin air, and just kind of, you know, just bring life into her interviews. And even when she was, you know, still doing, you know, like you said, Derek, the network, she would be, you know, backstage was really good. Like she got really, you know, she got not too involved, but she got involved enough to make it the interview worthwhile and worth watch. So ever since then, I mean, they haven't had anybody else to do that kind of thing. So
I think in wrestling, just some other ones that come to mind. WCW, I mean, Gene went over there. I think Lee Marshall was doing that at one point. Not to that degree, but he would do those stand-up interviews time to time. You know who actually could do it and could still do it, even though he's more of an announcer, is JR. Because I think he did those sit-down interviews.
Yeah, but I feel like they were different. See,
they were, but he could do he could keep it going.
Yeah.
Is what you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not necessarily what he's known for, but to me, you have to be kind of quick to be able to do that sort of playoff thing. And to go back to Gene, to be able to keep up with Bobby Heenan is a whole other. That's a whole
Yeah.
other level.
The one thing I really liked about Mean Gene's interviews and the aspect that I think that made him credible, and when you're watching him, it really resonated with the audience, is his job was supposed to be like the investigative journalist, and he acted like he was getting the scoop for you. And that's the part that I think gets lost on a lot of interviewers. Now they're just people. They're props holding props, basically.
Yes.
Whereas he seemed like he was trying to get a scoop for you, trying to get the bottom line, trying to get the word, like a journalist. And that's what his role should be. He was a journalist. He was a field journalist.
Well, because
I know you guys don't know anything about journalism, but take my word for it.
Yeah.
Okay?
No.
Oh, okay, buddy. All right.
The interviewers today come off very like they're wooden. They're not very expressive. They have surprised looks on their faces that don't come off surprised. It comes off very contrived.
Right.
And I look at WWE, and I think Kayla Braxton's really bright. Like when you see her on other stuff, but sometimes in the interviews, you don't get the same that same feel because
I just want to say because there's probably people out there listening and be like, Kayla Braxton, really? Go watch what's that called? That show that she's on The Bump. Go watch The Bump. She is spectacular on there. Sorry, I had to say that because
I
like her.
And it's not just WWE. Like you see, like every company is like that with the interviews. Like AEW, like Alex Marquez is just very blah. It doesn't have that feel to it. But I'll tell you before we go off this, who I do like was David Marquez on the NWA Power Show, because he had that old sounding voice and he could play off people. Yeah. And you see him with Nick Aldis, and it had that kind of feel to it. So I hope that comes back.
You know who my last thought on this is someone that does have a lot of potential, but the biggest problem is that wherever she goes, they always try and turn her into that type of interview instead of what she actually is Alicia Tout. I really like her. I like her stuff that she does on her actual blog, like when she was doing interviews for her own thing. Then when she goes to Impact, or she goes to MLW or wherever, AEW, they try and turn her into like a prop holding a prop. But if she actually did more like a sit down interview, or kind of like she's trying to get a scoop or something, I really think there's a lot of potential in there, and she does have a fan base.
I know another one I think that's actually really good is that Quinn McKay from Ring of Honor.
Yes, yeah. I haven't seen too much of her. She's pretty new, but she looks like I didn't see too much. I've seen only like one or two things, but she was good so far.
Yeah, one last thing I will say is that the tribute video that WWE did when Mean Gene passed away, really highlighted how investigative, into his, interviews he was, like he would go to locales and just be kind of goofy, but also kind of, that investigative reporter, like you were saying, Derek, and I loved that. And I even watched some of the stuff from the he was on like a manager DVD, so to speak, and I even watched some of that that he was involved in that DVD that WWE brought out, and he's just one of those guys. So glad we were able to celebrate his birthday.
We'll do a couple more. 1949, Jerry the King Lawler was born.
Yeah.
Wow. More announcers. Oh wow, that's crazy.
Well, Lawler was a wrestler too.
color. Yeah.
He's actually like one of my low key favorites.
You know what I would love to
From
talk to
Memphis?
somebody. I would love to talk to somebody from Tennessee and just ask them how big Jerry Lawler actually is in the state, because it seems like Lawler really is the king to a lot of people, for real. Like I don't think we could ever really grasp how big he actually is in that area. Like how many people own their own Batmobile?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll say he has some of the best punches too, and punching is one of the hardest things for wrestlers to do.
Yeah, but he low key, especially when you go back and watch.
Why low key? I thought we were talking about Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, okay. So if you go back and watch some of his Memphis stuff, he had such good psychology.
Oh,
His matches are they would build and build and build and build, and then just that Mid-South Coliseum would just explode. He pulled the strap down, and it was like, I mean, everyone's bloodthirsty waiting for him to destroy the heel. It's ridiculous how many years he drew in Memphis. Absolutely insane. And then I think people forget how great his feud with Bret Hart was when he came to the WWF, because he was probably the hottest heel in the company at that time too.
And it went on for years.
Yeah.
Years and years. It was like Hogan and Heenan.
And
he never let up. Loved it.
Yeah, he knew how to. It's funny. He was such a baby face in Memphis, but then he was the ultimate heel in the WWF, and it was so weird because he was working his territory at the time, and he was a baby face there, but then he's a heel on national television.
Yeah,
I don't think too many people could pull that off.
No, not nowadays.
I think ones that's sitting in the room with us could probably pull that off.
I do it every week on this podcast. So I mean, you know.
Game favorite on the podcast, heated everywhere else.
Oh boy.
1966, JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield was born.
Oh, your best friend there, Derek.
What do you mean? Hey, I got a story to tell you.
Best friend.
I got a couple of stories to tell you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about WrestleMania 23 when we got into Ford Field, and it was a bunch of us. It was me, Mike, and Dave, our friend Dave, and a few others. We were there. We just got inside. Was one of them. Dave's dad was one of them. We just got inside Ford Field, okay? And the pre-match is starting, the dark match or whatever.
Yeah.
Who music plays? Who music plays? JBL. Who goes from the pack running forward at full tilt? Mr. Michael Punga over JBL.
That wasn't because of JBL. It was because I wasn't gonna miss the whole show there. Okay.
They should call you Marco Punga.
Dude, I'm telling you, you love to twist these stories. I'm telling you. Yes, okay, I did that, but it wasn't because of JBL. Fine.
If that story's twisted, let's talk about a story that's not twisted. When me and Pepper went to Royal Rumble and we
without me, without me. Shirt. Yeah, never got the invite for that one. Yeah,
you did. Anyway,
no, I didn't.
Oh my god!
No, I didn't.
Bought you the official shirt.
I didn't actually.
Shirt.
Okay.
Bought you the event shirt, and you wore it. You wore it like 2 days later, and you had a hoodie. But it's only zipped up to like your chest, and who's smiling? Who's smiling outside from your shirt is JBL.
Wow!
I can't help the placement of the t-shirts. I mean, if you're gonna put that big face on
and then you get the heat because you think I bought it outside the venue because it had JBL's face on it.
Wow! I didn't think this was gonna spawn this big of a conversation.
Well, it's better than his career, so.
Oh, whoa!
Oh man, we're gonna have more heat than Dave Meltzer. Holy crap! Holy.
I don't think Meltzer puts JBL over. I could be wrong, but anyway, just a quick thing on JBL. The first time I went to a house show in Toronto in '99. The APA came out, and they were wrestling the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. And the Dudley Boys, for whatever reason, get eliminated about 2 minutes into the match. and then it's just them and the Hardys. And Matt Hardy has Farouk, like he's gonna pile drive him or power bomb him or something, and then JBL like tears his head off with a clothesline, and like everybody in the arena was like just kind of jumped like because that that clothesline wasn't a little powder puff clothesline
Oh,
at any time. I would say that's probably the biggest thing with him was that clothesline from hell was probably one of the nastiest looking finishers of that era.
I did like his heel run as JBL when he first turned into JBL. I'll say that.
Well, I mean,
you more than like
okay. if you're playing yourself, I mean, it gets over. That was more. Pritchard said it on his podcast. He's being John Layfield on TV.
So yeah.
The best characters are extensions of yourself. That's why Punga would be the most over heel if he went in the ring. Next.
Thank you.
1968, Hayabusa was born.
Ah, yes.
Legendary wrestler from FMW. Did you ever see the movie that Hayabusa was in? What was it called? It was like a backyard movie. Something dogs. I can't remember what it was called. And these two guys were backyard wrestlers. Anyway, they were trying to get a contract with FMW, and Hayabusa shows up in the movie. And he's in a limo, and he takes his mask off. It's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, so in the movie, these guys are wrestling tag matches. And then they call something in the ring, and they're allowed to shoot for the last 5 minutes. It's just, yeah. Anyway.
I think he's on my list. If I had to have a list of the most underrated guys in the 90s that no one talks about today, he's on that list.
Yeah.
Another guy on that, and another guy, the number one guy on that list is, and here's a name that you never hear about, is I'm not going to tell you because I can't remember his name.
Anyway,
wait, I'll look it up.
You're right on Hayabusa. I remember when I bought VHS of Heatwave 98, I think it was, and he worked that show. He teamed with Jinsei Shinzaki, who was what was his name in the WWF, Derek? Hakushi.
Gazuche.
And they wrestled Van Dam and Sabu. That match, it's the first time I'd seen Hayabusa. I mean, he was ridiculous in the match.
God, I wish I could remember that guy's name. To shoot first. This is great. This is fantastic.
Is it a Japanese wrestler?
No, American. He was huge in the 90s, but no one talks about him now.
All right. Is there any more?
All right, I got one more. I got one more
birthday. Okay.
Oh, I got it. Wait. I got the guy's name. Ready? The number one guy on my list of guys from the 90s that are underrated that no one talks about today. Reckless Youth.
Oh yeah, for sure. He was like the original indie darling.
Yeah, he was exactly, and no one talks about him at all. But he was like in the mid to late 90s, like that. He was the man. He was the guy. He's in all the magazines and everything.
Yeah, and it's crazy that he never broke mainstream.
Yeah, right. Like, you know what? I need to go. I'm going to go back and see what I can find about him. Like, not right now, but maybe later this week, because that's crazy.
Yeah, he was tremendous. He funny in the 90s when I first started getting the internet, I'd see his name pop up on some of the wrestling sites I'd go to, and then back in when the .com industry was just starting, I remember some wrestlers would have websites, and D'Lo Brown had a website. I remember going on it, and he just had links for Reckless Youth. He was putting over Reckless Youth huge. So these guys must have all pitched him at some point, because anyone that worked like the territories, like Detroit and all that, like Reckless Youth would have.
Apparently, he's currently he's the director of the tax department at Jones Apparel.
Oh man.
Isn't that
so
crazy?
Just a little bit of research done here. We he was actually trained by a couple these by Al Snow and William Regal. Like those two are like he must have been one heck. I don't know him personally, but and unfortunately I haven't seen much of Reckless Youth. But however, knowing that he was trained by those two guys, I would love to see some of the matches, like just technically.
He literally could do everything. Like
he was
everything.
ahead. Like you ask a lot of the guys that were like, I bet you if you were asked Daniel Bryan, he would put him over. Like he was like everyone that you hear that is like, oh yeah, Shawn Michaels was a huge influence on me. Everyone that is like a wrestler that says that, I guarantee you, if they were into like the scene, Reckless Youth, they would know and they would put him over.
I would say anybody that came up probably in that early Ring of Honor system.
Yes, yeah.
Probably. I mean, I don't know how he wasn't working there.
Yeah. I think he left the business around like in 2003 was his final match in CZW.
Oh, okay.
There's not much on him. That's the thing. Like
that's a shame. That is a shame.
So
that's why I wanted to bring him up, because like this is a guy that like, I mean, if he 10 years later he would have been like CM Punk's where CM Punk was, you know.
But even think about this, because he was big on the scene in the late 90s. He would have been perfect in like ECW.
Yeah. I don't know why
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't know why he didn't
I think we should put this to be continued, and we should research this for
I think so too.
Because this is an interesting conversation.
Yeah. I would like to have somebody that, if anyone's listening and they know anything about Reckless Youth and you want to come on the show, give us a DM in Twitter or however that works.
Or email.
What's the email, Matt?
3falsepodcast@gmail.com.
How you spell 3?
With a 3.
With the
number 3.
falsepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, because like, if you know anything about this guy that you want to come on and talk about, I think this is something that, we could put aside the classic match for a week, maybe even put one of his matches as a classic match, review that match, and have a good discussion about Reckless Youth.
I agree.
All right. Who else?
I got one more. And you gave a shout out on social already, but it is the birthday of Rosemary.
Yes, Courtney Rush.
Courtney Rush, born in 1983.
Everyone's truly favorite Winnipegger.
Yes, nice. Absolutely.
Happy birthday,
she's still doing good. She's had another resurgence here in the last year, so character's still pretty strong on Impact.
Yeah, honestly one of the nicest people in wrestling. I guarantee, like, she's the coolest person. Like, you could just have a conversation with her about like hockey, video games, anime, all stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get on with the show.
That wasn't the show?
Seems like it.
All right.
So that brings us to Survivor Series 2020.
Excellent.
Do any of you guys have the card to run down?
I do have the card.
Would you like it out?
Look at that. Look at you guys all prepared in that.
I actually have it right here. If you guys want me to go ahead.
Yes.
I'll start here.
Yes,
all right.
Mike, run it down for us.
All right. So we have Team Raw of AJ Styles, Matt Riddle, Braun Strowman, Sheamus, and Keith Lee defeated Team SmackDown. Seth Rollins, Kevin Uso, Otis, and King Corbin. That started the night off, and SmackDown Survivor Series match.
Okay,
very odd match.
I just, you know what? Actually, before we really get into it, I have some grievances about this. I want to air, not about that match, but about Survivor Series in general. And I really feel like maybe I'm not the only one that thinks this, but I'm going to just put all my cards out and let you guys know that this show was terrible for me. And it's not because it was bad wrestling. It was the matches were decent. They were pretty good, but they had nothing behind them. There was no stakes. It was very bland. And knowing what was going to come at the end, like knowing that, we're going to see the last of the Undertaker, didn't help it. Okay. You're having Raw versus SmackDown. None of these guys have been on these brands long enough for you to care. Where is the loyalty? What are they having these matches for? They weren't even keeping track or score or anything. There's no trophy. There's nothing at stake.
Right.
Like, it was really hard to get through these matches for me because it's like I don't have any investment in any of these matches. It's not like it's even like storylines that are really going on. And exactly. Like I said, when we talk about the matches, like they weren't bad matches, but this whole thing is broken.
So the Survivor Series that I remember, like even to a point, they had like a counter of how many times SmackDown beat Raw.
Well, that was,
and that's
breaking rights,
which is essentially Survivor Series.
Exactly, they turned it into Survivor Series.
Okay, well, okay, fine, fair enough. But like, I'm waiting for, like you said, like something to culminate through this show, and it wasn't really any.
Well, I think I said it last week when we talked about Survivor Series coming out. How there's no reason for Raw and SmackDown to be against each other.
No,
it doesn't make sense. The last year's was interesting because you added NXT to the mix, but they didn't do that this year.
No, and they probably should have, man. Like this, like
personally, I would like to see Raw and SmackDown versus NXT and NXT UK rather than Raw versus SmackDown. To me, that's more appealing because you don't see the NXT guys on Raw or SmackDown at any given point. They weren't on there before. They're not, you know what I mean? So it's interesting to see that. That's more of worlds colliding than what we're getting with Raw versus SmackDown.
I would say I would like to see a Survivor Series in the next couple of years that doesn't involve the brand fighting. I want to see one Survivor Series that's like, you have a team, pick your team, let's go. I want to see that again.
Yeah. No, definitely.
What I would like to see is, I don't mind the brand versus brand, but I want to see something at stake. So this is what I wouldn't mind seeing, is that you keep track. So not that you keep track, but have the draft the week after, okay? Or even at Survivor Series, have the draft where you have Raw versus SmackDown. So say if you have the Raw versus SmackDown 5-on-5 and Raw wins, one of that person from SmackDown gets drafted to Raw. So now you have some stakes at, or have like a title match or something.
Yeah, do it like with
I want to see the draft.
How about this? You have five people on the team, right? So here's the stakes. You're gonna have at least one tag team in there, and then 3 other guys, and when whoever wins, they're gonna draw. The tag team will get the title shot. The other 3 will draw for a world title shot, Intercontinental title shot, and U.S. title shot, and you don't know who's going to get each shot.
I like that. That
works.
But it makes sense. There's actual stakes.
Right. They could do it with freaking briefcases or something like that. Hey, 1, 2, and 3. Pick a briefcase. And you don't know what you're gonna get. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Anyway,
did you guys?
We could go on about that forever.
Right. So the one thing I will say about this, as the week went on after this, was Braun Strowman being injured. Obviously, Seth Rollins is now taking time away from the ring. So this, I don't know. It was just you're right. It was just kind of like a throw together. I thought no stakes involved. So
here's the here was the really
I
odd part
will.
about it. The
So go
really
ahead.
odd part about it is Raw like completely owned SmackDown in
Yeah.
that match. Like,
Right.
I mean, you. I mean, Seth Rollins went out first.
Right.
I
Yep.
mean,
Like
I just
what's that? What's that say? Right. Like, come on, man.
like they totally destroyed them. And
So
I get the story with Jey Uso, like that kind of I get that was good afterwards.
for
But
sure.
I mean, man,
Uh,
it was an odd match. I just found it very odd.
so and then all right. So then we kind of move on. Anybody else want to do anything on the Raw SmackDown match? No.
No,
All I want to say is Kevin Owens was a star. Once he got eliminated, my interest. Kevin Owens and Keith Lee, because I loved the ending with Keith Lee with that power bomb. I
Oh
thought that was
yeah.
really nice. But
yes,
Kevin Owens was also. Felt like he was really into it, and it got me into it. But other than that, other
Yeah.
than those two,
KO
I
was
I, I
excellent.
didn't care.
Exactly. Okay. Well, we move on to Raw versus Raw, Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Street Profits go over against the Raw champions, the New Day.
yes,
My highlight of this match was the New Day or the Gears of War gear that the New
yes,
Day
the
came out
entrance,
in.
yes. So I mean, the start of this match, I wasn't digging it, but they got me towards the end. It was good, but I mean, again, there's no heat, there's no nothing to the match. I would say it's a good win for the Street Profits, like to beat an established team, because they
Yep.
clearly want the Street Profits to be like one of the top teams in the company. But there wasn't much.
No,
I mean, there wasn't much to this match for me, to be honest. But it was
I
still
thought
good.
I thought this was a pretty good match. Technical wise, I thought the chemistry was there. The psychological, you know, back and forth. Um, did anybody catch the awesome chance uh, with this match as well? I don't know if anybody caught that, but
How
uh,
could you not? They jack up the volume so high on it.
That's true. Yep, that's true. I mean, this goes to the fact that yes, we had no fans for this, you know, still, but it was still a great match. I thought it was, between them. Now we go to the uh, United States champion Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn of SmackDown, the Intercontinental
Yep.
Champion. Lashley goes over Sami Zayn in this match. Any thought?
Sammy's Sammy's turned into a really good character. Uh,
Yes.
Smarmy heel, like he's just annoying, like but I don't know how you actually would describe him as a character, but he's easy to dislike. And
Strategist?
lastly, I guess they've done a good job with Lashley. Lashley really, it was the right result in my opinion, tapping him out. Bobby Lashley's on a tear. I would, well, this loss ain't gonna hurt Sami Zayn.
No,
So yeah,
not
I
at
mean,
all.
I think it was the right. I think it was for what it was fine.
Yep.
Again, it's just you got two heels, champion versus champion. Like it just doesn't do it for me, dog.
Derek, anything?
No, I
Okay.
completely agree.
Yep. No, it was kind of one of those filler matches, I believe, and but still like the Hurt Business. Sami Zayn still is he's good on SmackDown where he is, and he's doing his thing, right? So now we move on to the SmackDown and Raw Women's Champion match. Sasha Banks defeating Asuka to, to kind of put the bragging rights over that again. Any thoughts with this? I thought this was a really good match back and forth, and kind of surprised Sasha won, but not really. I don't know. Anything from Matt?
I think this match was good. I agree.
Yeah.
I thought this was a good enough match. Now this is obviously we're going to say this about every match, but no stakes in that.
Right.
But I don't know. I like both of these women. I think they're both right now. They really are at the top, minus maybe Bailey. So you know, it was interesting. I think of all the matches, besides the Drew McIntyre Roman Reigns match, this was probably the only other match that I was really intrigued with.
Right. Matt?
Yeah. No, I mean, I kind of predicted that this would be a match to watch beforehand. I wasn't sure on who was going to win, but I think Sasha winning's the right choice because she's pretty hot right now. This won't hurt Asuka either.
No.
And Sasha kind of needs it because they've always, like, she's never had a good title run on the main roster. She's always, like, pretty much lost it in her first defense. So her beating Asuka gives her some, like, street cred on the show. For probably that inevitable rematch with Bailey somewhere down the road.
Right. And I would just like to say that I'm interested to see what who Sasha Banks and Asuka on respective shows have as their top contenders going forward. So I really am interested in that. So following that, we had Team Raw in the women's division and Team SmackDown in the women's division. We had Team Raw, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, Lana, Lacey Evans, and Peyton Royce, taking on Natalya, Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, Bayley, and Bianca Belair.
Yes. Do you want to go first?
I like the story. See, this is the only match on the card that really had a story or any heat to it.
Yes.
And like, which I mean, it was good enough. I really like the stuff that they're doing with Lana, and I really like this. Although I would have really loved to see her get like maybe a pin or something and get some sort of offense, but I love the fact that she was like the sole survivor. I thought this was really good. Like not the match more itself, but the story behind it.
Well, I liked it because they're bullying her in the match, right? So not only Nia, but Shayna, they're both forcing her like out of the ring because Lana got in and got a few spots in. They tagged her out, told her to stand on the steps. You could tell Lana has done acting because
absolutely.
She was in what's that movie?
I know what you're talking about.
The singing one. What's it called? Come on, Mike. You like.
I like what?
You like movies.
It's a dance movie or whatever that is.
No, it's a singing one with the acapella group. It has Anna Kendricks in it. Mike knows Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, I was about to say it, but yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, we know you were about to say it.
Anyway.
What's wrong with Pitch Perfect? I enjoyed that movie. What, you too man enough to say you enjoyed that movie, Mike? Please.
Back to wrestling. So no, she did a good job with facials when she's on the steps. Like she looks like she's gonna cry. She looks like she's just deflated, right? But I noticed when they would do an elimination, she would still cheer for the team, even though they're forcing her out of the match. But what I did like in the match, like, because they had SmackDown on the ropes, Bianca Belair really shined in the match. She was like destroying Shayna and Nia. And anyway, the spot at the end made sense where she couldn't get back in the ring and ended up losing. So just, I haven't seen it, but Lana's got that documentary piece on the network where she's talking about being bullied and all that. So WWE, you can say what you want, but they are able to take something that is personal and amplify it on TV. Lana's a sympathetic character right now.
She is. She definitely is.
And the
Because the
one thing I
internet,
really liked, which was kind of serendipitous, was that her lipstick was smeared at some
yeah,
point. So she's standing there with this smeared lipstick, looking sad. That really added to it.
yes, and they're playing out this real life issue she's having,
Right.
and which they probably it's now that I think about it, because she went through the table 9 weeks in a row. She did that before they put that documentary piece out.
I have
Say we
to.
want to say
Yeah.
what you want about WWE, but they are building it. Like she's gonna have a ton of sympathy. You just wish that there would be fans for this.
I
I'd be curious to see how they react
well.
to,
Speaking of
because
having,
she,
yeah.
unfortunately, has been. You know, I understand like
Well,
people
I think.
getting on her about her work and stuff, but at the same
Uh-huh.
time, who's gonna take 9 table spots from Nia Jax? Like, come on,
Right. And
Nia.
not get hurt.
It takes guts. To me, I have a lot of respect for Lana for that.
I
Because
absolutely.
let's say the internet's right and they're burying her, she's taking it on the chin. If that's the case, or I think she's gonna get her. I think she's gonna get Nia's gonna get her comeuppance, and I will make a prediction because I was thinking about this the other day. I bet we get to the Royal Rumble and Lana tosses Nia.
Yeah, that would be good. I like that.
Well, um didn't something happen one year at the Rumble with them? Like she replaced her or Lana got replaced by Nia Jax or something like that. I remember something kind of interesting. But anyways, all
I'm
right.
not. Move
Well,
on.
moving on, we come to speaking of having fans for certain matches and stuff like that. I thought this was a decent one. We have the Universal Champion Roman Reigns defeating the WWE Champion Drew McIntyre. I thought this was definitely not a match for the ages, but I definitely thought this was decent between the two of them. Um, and however, just really good main event for the end of for the almost end to the pay-per-view. But anyways, any thoughts on?
I thought they did a fantastic job.
I like these two, I really do, and I like Drew McIntyre, um, and Roman Reigns' new character is just head of the tribe type of you know I like it. Tribal chief, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Roman Reigns is the best thing in wrestling in 2020.
Well, okay, hold on. Okay, go ahead. Just setting my watch.
That's all right. He's the best. He is the best character on the show. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good of a worker he is either. He's been tremendous. I say it every time we talk about Reigns. It's just gold. Like everything he does is gold. And you know what? This match, the way they, the way it was put together, to me, in a weird way, elevated Drew McIntyre because
Even though he's lost 2 consecutive papers.
he lost 2 consecutive. Then he won the title. Oh, he won the title on Raw. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think
Anyways,
that
go ahead.
matters because he won the title in between there. So
That's true. That's true. Fair enough.
the thing. He's going against Roman Reigns, who's the big dog. He's the
Oh,
biggest name in the
absolutely.
company. The
Yep.
biggest name in the company. He went toe to toe. He had on the ropes. Roman essentially screwed him over. So
Mm-hmm.
he didn't. It's not like he did a clean job in the middle of the ring.
True.
He fought to the end. He passed out. He didn't tap out. To me, he went toe to toe with the biggest name in the company, and it could set up another match down the road. So I think Drew, I really want to see when fans are back to see how they react to him, especially when they get back overseas.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. Back over in Scotland
There
and
was
sort of the UK, I should say, but
there was a he's from Scotland. There was
yeah.
talk. I heard a rumor they were going to actually have an outdoor stadium match with him against Tyson Fury in Scotland at one point.
Wow.
Oh crap!
They would have sold that out.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anyway, we should move
So
on to the big part of the big
well,
advertised part of the show.
the big advertised part of the show, as everyone was a big one for my for watching this. It was Undertaker's farewell on a show that he debuted, his pay-per-view debut on, and this was his final kind of last ride, send off. Now, this is something that Matt, we were just talking just a minute ago about having fans. This is something they should have had fans in attendance for. Unfortunately, they couldn't do that. But regardless, they had some legends, former foes, former WrestleMania victims, whatever you'd like to call them, in the ring to kind of start this off. And I thought that was pretty cool to kind of see that. Now, you guys could jump in any time. I'm not going to kind of relay it, but
why don't we go through it segment by segment?
So they had the legends.
The best way.
They
brought each of the legends down.
Yep, each of the legends down. They had Big Show. They've had the
Godwins.
The Godwins. Haku, I believe.
Nope.
Rikishi. Sorry, Savio Vega. I apologize. Savio Vega, Rikishi. We had Edge, I believe.
Nope.
No.
Nash. It was Nash, Booker T.
Okay. Kevin Nash. Sorry, I apologize.
Shawn Michaels, Flair.
Ric Flair, Triple H, Kane came down at the very end. Now this was
Shane McMahon, JBL, Jeff Hardy, Mick Foley.
Yeah. So they all came down.
Yep.
They stood in the ring, and then that was it. They cut to a music video of Metallica, "For Whom the Bells Toll," set to Undertaker highlights.
Great song, though.
Let's talk briefly about this part, bring the legends down. Wasn't this a huge waste of time?
Absolutely, 100%.
This made no sense.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. No one even talked. Like, you think if they're going to do something like this, somebody would talk. Somebody would say something.
Yeah. Think about it like this. They would have paid trans for all these people to come to the show just to stand in the ring for 30 seconds and then bail.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't want to, I agree having them there is good if Taker wants it, but do something with them.
Yeah. They didn't do anything with them.
But
not a damn thing.
Why not, when they were coming down to the ring, cut to a video, have them explain, this is the Godwin, or I don't know, Savio Vega. Savio Vega's coming down the ring. What relationship do we know Savio Vega has with The Undertaker? None. So you could say that, Savio Vega was a member of BSK, and in fact, at Survivor Series 1995, they teamed together as the Dark Side, Same with, you could do the same with Rikishi. You could show him getting actually pushed. Use a video. You're promote, I know your people are already watching this on the network, but you could still use it to promote the network. Another thing, one thing I had, there's two problems I had with this. Okay, one's a small one. One is maybe like a little bit of a medium sized one. All right. So let's see. Godwins. Do you agree with both of them coming out together?
No,
And why is that?
because it's funny when they came out. Michael Cole said, "Here's the Godwins," and Phineas is also known as Midian. So they did explain that, but they didn't explain why Henry Godwin's there. And then why is if he was Undertaker's like minion, so why would he come out as Phineas?
Exactly. I would have had Phineas come out as Midian, and then you could have Henry O'Godwin come out, but show him teaming. I think he teamed with the Undertaker in that dark side Survivor Series match too. But yeah, I really feel that that's a small one that Phineas should have came out as Midian. Now, my other one, which is kind of bugs me, is I don't know if maybe they reach out to him or not, but I had a problem with. I think it would have been better if he was there, and it would have made a lot more sense. Can you name somebody that was part of the Ministry of Darkness that wasn't there that should have been there? Obviously, I'm not talking about Edge, Gangrel, and Christian because they were like the brood that were inside, but of the Ministry of Darkness, who wasn't there?
Farouk.
Exactly. Why not have JBL and Farouk come out as the acolytes instead of bringing JBL out as JBL?
Well, shoot, they always use Farouk or Ron Simmons on everything else, so why not? Why couldn't he have been there? Exactly.
It's not like the fans are gonna be chanting "damn."
Right.
Yeah. But like, I would have just had that.
They probably did, but
if they did it that way, then at least you have the entire Ministry of Darkness stable, the core members,
right
there.
That's a good point, Derek. I never thought about that.
And that was the other part. Like, if we're really nitpicking this, which we should be because it's such a big thing, I would have at least had that. I definitely would have had video showing highlights even during the show itself. They should have showed highlights over the Undertaker's career.
Yeah.
They should have showed key moments.
To hype it up, yeah.
I really think that, and like, this is just the beginning. We'll get to more later. But I feel like on that part is where they really dropped the ball.
Oh.
No, that was kind of well, that's a big one too. Showing the life and career, the career of the Undertaker and showing the people that he was associated with. Like, I mean, how many times are you gonna have Triple H and Shawn Michaels in a darn ring? And I don't know. Like, you're right there.
I don't think that'll be the last time we see Triple H and Shawn Michaels in a ring together.
Because
that's like almost every week.
I know, that's true. So then after that kind of, after that appearance by the wrestlers there in the ring, which Kane was the last one out, and then it kind of he disappeared, and then you see that video, tribute video to Whom the Bell Tolls.
That was fantastic.
I thought that was a very well done video.
Yeah.
I thought that was very well done.
You're not going to top WWE in that department.
Oh, absolutely not.
And it's funny because
they could have had more video packages, though. But anyways,
I was watching that and I was thinking, like, this is almost like my life flashing before my eyes.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Definitely. It was solemn, very solemn. Now, then after the video, it cuts to Vince alone in the ring, and this is where I'm like, man, this guy is like, I'm thinking he's gonna, cut not a large promo, but cut something where he's talking about, the Undertaker, and I guess to a point, he said a few words on this, and it got pretty emotional, and my first impression, and this is my my opinion, like, think to myself, 30 years, he's watched this guy, um, start from really nothing and then create this character that has just transformed into the biggest, one of the biggest superstars that his company has ever seen. One of the biggest, and the legacy of the Undertaker, um, lives on even after this farewell. So, any thoughts on the video package or Vince?
Well, like I said, the video package was phenomenal. Vince introducing him, I mean, I thought that was good. I don't really have much of a complaint about that.
I
I
mean,
thought
it makes sense for Vince to intro that, so
yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
I think like this, what I would have done with this? I would just put him in the Hall of Fame at the end of this. Just say he's in the Hall of Fame now.
Yeah, have like an advertisement or a video and just say, 2021, Hall of Fame.
Wow.
But so then it was time. The and if I missed something, I do apologize. I was kind of mesmerized.
I don't think there's really that much on this part, but
yeah, you're doing good.
No,
go ahead.
basically it was him entering the arena for the last time. Now I thought was kind of cool. His entrance started off of the different. They did little snippets of his entrance. Did you notice that? Did anybody notice that? Like it started with like the crucifix, like and then like the bongs were different, like the bong. Like
Well, it was like the
time.
Tesla, right? Was like the Tesla that was doing it.
Yes, like what I'm saying is that the different entrances of through the years of the Undertaker, the different
the evolution of
the evolution of the entrances. So, anyways, basically he came out, very slowly. And he even spoke, which I kind of, was just kind of staring at the TV at this point, going, "Oh my God, like this is, this is it. This is it. This is farewell. This is, and I'm very, I was just very solemn. So anybody can jump in at this point, guys. I was very taken back.
The one part that you forgot that to me was the best thing of. Oh, actually, you didn't. Never mind, because we didn't get to it yet. But yeah, no, I thought his promo was good for what it was. Like, what else is he going to say? He's
right
in character, right? I don't know. Matt, do you have anything on his promo?
No, it was pretty basic.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah.
No, and then after he was done his promo, he knelt down in the middle of the ring, and this is where I kind of thought a little bit of I don't know. They could have done without and this is probably what you were going to say, Derek. I don't know if they could have done without the whole holographic Paul Bearer.
I loved it. I thought this was awesome.
Okay, go ahead, Derek. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you
I did not like it. I did not like it. So go ahead, Derek. I'll let you.
If you didn't have Paul Bearer at least in any form in this whole thing,
absolutely,
you would have been sorely missed. He was a huge part of the Undertaker, absolutely. Whether it was being his manager or going against him, managing guys and that. He told the Undertaker story. You cannot tell the Undertaker story without talking about Paul Bearer.
Yeah.
And to have like this what's it called? Like a hologram of Paul Bearer
doing
this. This was just
and you heard his voice too.
This was just so fantastic to see. And I'm really happy that they did this. To me, this was the best thing that they did in this whole thing.
This part really got me, especially hearing that little snippet of his voice. Like, You know, that wasn't very good, but I'm sorry, but just hearing the voice and then thinking to yourself like, oh man, that I mean that voice is iconic. That and just thinking back, but yeah, you're right, Derek. This was a good shot of him, you know, say almost kind of saying come home or come that kind of solemn reminder of who started it all, who knows his story. So Matt.
I thought it was a nice touch. I mean, how can you celebrate the Undertaker without Paul Bear? It's just it doesn't. I mean, yeah, you know what though? It's kind of I'm not. You know what's really I don't want to get off the Paul Bear thing. I'll come back to it in a second. But you know what's odd now that I think about it is when they brought all the legend out. Kane was in his gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got Kane in his gear, but he could have kind of did a thing with Undertaker, like a send off too, right? Because Kane's a
Right.
big part of Undertaker too. And but no, I think that I don't think you can really quantify how big Paul Bear was to the Undertaker, especially in those early days. Because Undertaker didn't talk. It was always rest in peace. Like, but Paul Bear was Undertaker. Like he was creepy. He fit the role. He was
Oh God.
the whole thing. I mean, the presentation of Paul Bear and the Undertaker was to me iconic in the WWE.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, like it just doesn't. I think it's a nice touch for Paul Bear, and you know what? If you were like his family, like his kids and stuff, and like that would probably be a pretty emotional thing that he's still being celebrated in the company. And I imagine the Undertaker, I can't see him not wanting to do that. That's probably
No.
they probably wanted to have something with him, and I think it was the right thing to do.
Yes. Yep. You're right. Absolutely perfect thing. Uh, and then him walking up the ramp, for the last time, um, and then he stops and he raises his arm as always, and that was seeing that I just it brought me through brought me to the time, just kind of solemn time and like he's not gone, right? But he is. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like, oh man, it's gonna be feel real different without his presence at Survivor Series at WrestleMania and um and that's all I'll say about that segment. I you know it has its downs, but it definitely had its ups, a lot of the ups. So to me anyways. Derek, anything? Any last? No.
I would like to see maybe. Well, okay. I got a question for you guys.
Sure.
Mm.
All right. So, what is there anything that you would have liked to see them done differently?
I personally wish they didn't do this right now.
And why is that?
I, you gotta have fans for this, man. I can't. This is so. I know it's
Right.
the anniversary of the Undertaker at Survivor Series. I get it. I 100% get it. It's just the fans should be giving a send off to him. It's 30 years. We were kids when he was on TV initially. We're adults now. He's a big part of our life. It's just I find that hard for me. Now, in terms of the production of what they did, we touched on it already. The Legends part, that was the biggest waste of time of all time. I get the Undertaker's doing like a farewell speech as the Undertaker, but the fans on TV have, for the most part, I've only ever seen him like that, with the exception of the Underbiker stuff.
Right.
But I mean, I would like to
Well,
see like the heartfelt goodbye with the Undertaker, but I think that's coming at a later date. I'm sure, probably the Hall of Fame at some point. I just my big thing is just the Legends part. None of them said anything about him. None
No,
of them.
it was
And
a
it
a
just
waste of time. I really do think. I mean, Derek's right. They could have done a video package between each of them, explaining the relationship,
why
explaining the
do you
dynamic.
guys do you remember Daniel Bryan? They had a documentary on him when he retired, and the whole documentary was called "Thank You, Daniel," and every single person on the thing thanked him.
I do remember that actually. So what the heck?
You couldn't have something like that. I don't know. I'm just
Now, now I'm like,
I
now I'm thinking to
honestly
myself, I'm like, what the heck, man? Like,
I I honestly I feel underwhelmed with the whole thing. I like the Paul Bear stuff. I like that, but it didn't have that must see TV thing for me.
Yeah, I agree. Now, it's funny because I remember, I was driving home after I watched this, and I was thinking about the whole show and Undertaker retiring. And I'll be honest with you guys, completely honest. I was kind of contemplating if I want to keep watching wrestling. I was like, you know what? If I stopped right now, I'm not really missing anything. I feel it's hard because here's a question, especially for you, Matt, because you've been watching wrestling as long as I have, and you know almost as
Yeah.
much as I do, but not quite. My question to you
that's fine.
is, my question to
I
you,
get where you're going with it.
no. My question was to you, Matt, is do you think a lot of these guys, like the Undertaker, is probably maybe the last one from our childhood who was still kind of active. There's a handful, maybe if you want to count Jericho or whatever. But
Sure.
do you think once they hang it up, like you would hang it up as a fan? Or do you think like younger guys will keep you watching? Like obviously I'm
I
invested into like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan and guys that are around my age, but even like maybe when they hang it up, like could I still watch it and enjoy it with knowing that like there's this younger talent out there like I don't want to say young bucks because they're my age but do you get what I'm saying?
yeah, I know what you mean. Because I think what you mean is there's a lot of lapsed fans that are holding on to what made them that are trying to hold on to why they became fans in the era that they did,
Yeah,
and and a lot of that's going away. I I would say this. I've had lapsed moments for years, off and on, and then there's something that happens where they got me again.
i'll be
Uh,
honest I'll be honest, it
Not
happens
recently.
with me almost on a weekly basis. Like one week I'll be really into it, another week I'll just be so disconnected,
Well,
which is funny since I have this podcast, but that's besides the point.
I mean, I think a lot of the premise of our show is historical stuff, right? So we're catering to that side. Well, we do watch the current product. We don't typically always enjoy it, but you know, there's it's a multifaceted answer. So first of all, you look at your age group, right? Now, if someone's 19 or 20 and they're on TV, it's probably not easy to relate to them. you know, when you're getting in your mid 30s, late 30s, slowly creeping to 40s, mid 40s, 50s, whatever. Can you relate to somebody that's 20?
Well, here's an example. When we started watching wrestling, it resembled more of a bar fight. Now that we watch wrestling, it resembles more of like a cirque, and it's not dissing it or anything, but more of Cirque du Soleil type of thing, where it's all about acrobatics and athleticism.
But then, and I could be wrong, if you see somebody whose style is not that, they tend to stand out.
Like a Eddie Kingston.
Sure. Yeah. So those are the guys that stand out. So Eddie Kingston's like a throwback, even like with his presence, the way he talks. So you put him up again. I mean, it would never happen. But if he was on the mic and the Young Bucks were on the mic, there's just no contest. And he's a star. He comes across like a star.
But is he
Anyway,
enough to keep you watching every week?
um, I guess it depends on what he's doing, right? Because that's the other part of it. So he, I know we're using him as an example. He's taken some really bad storylines and been able to make himself some like entertaining, right? It's it's one part the talent and one part creative. People bag on creative all the time in wrestling, all the time, and you if you compare it, like if I was watching, I was watching, I forget what it was. There's something with Brett because I was trying to find that video the other day. I was watching him talk about wrestling Yokozuna, and he said the promos he had with Yokozuna where I think they did one of the first contract signings, and he said it was new at the time, and they're kind of getting in each other's face, and he calls him a fat tub of goo or something like that. And he's like, and usually you didn't have promos face to face, but people got interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see it all the time, right? So it's the problem that I have as when I get to the last fan, it's like, well, I just seen this last week. I've seen this over and over and over again, and you know, you see guys like Undertaker have been around for 30 years. He had a character that shouldn't work, but it did work. He was unique. There's not a lot of unique guys or and girls on the show anymore. I think that's why the women's evolution got so hot because you didn't see the women portrayed in the athletic worker light that they were portrayed differently before, so people got interested in that. You watch a lot of the talent today, like you watch AEW. How many cruiserweights are on that show? Tons.
A lot.
And how many work the same style? Tons. It's not. It's part of it is you have so many people that do the exact same stuff, and you have storylines that are more convoluted and aren't easy to get. Part of the draw with wrestling was it's easy to get. You have two people in the ring. They're trying to beat each other up. They're trying to win. They win, they make money. They win, they move up. They might get a title shot. That was the plot. You move away from the plot, and it's hard. Undertaker was a gimmick, but at the same time, you see him in the ring. He's bigger than everybody else. It's like, oh man, what's going to happen? That's
Right.
how I look at it. That's how I look at it. I will probably always be a fan of wrestling to some degree. It's just I don't get what I think I need every week out of these shows. That's why I try to watch these other shows.
Now, Mike, how do you feel about it? Because you're kind of you're coming from a different aspect of this because you watch wrestling for a long time, but not as long as us. But on the flip side, you've always said your two favorite wrestlers were Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. And Shawn Michaels retired a number of years ago. Now The Undertaker's gone. I know your fandom has kind of waned out a little bit. I mean, if you weren't doing this podcast, how much wrestling would you be watching right now? And is there anyone that is keeping you watching?
Wow, that's a great kind of segue question.
I know I'm an excellent journalist. Thank you.
Yeah, you really are, Derek. You really are. You're right, Derek. You're right. I have waned off a lot from it, waned away from it, and I enjoy the local flavors. That we have here in Windsor when we have them, whether they be BCW or Impact. Yes, two of my favorite wrestlers. A lot of my favorites from back in the day are unfortunately either retired, passed on, for so, in that respect. There, I like doing, I like talking about wrestling. I do, but truthfully, if it wasn't for this podcast, and I'm not trying to, downplay myself or my fandom at all, but it really, I really probably don't watch enough or a lot. Now, do I still catch it on the occasion where, I like watching Roman Reigns or I like watching Drew McIntyre? John Moxley is still, still there. John Moxley is there as one of my, favorites on AEW. Christopher Daniels when I see him.
Yeah, but you're talking okay, so John Moxley, he's 30 he's about 35, 36 years old. Christopher Daniels, I mean, he's not far from retiring. He's basically one foot out the door.
True.
So like we're talking like, okay, say John Moxley stays in a couple more years, like is that why you're like, would you be watching because of him? Like, is there anyone that really resonates you that, in 20 years, you'll be like, yeah, I'm still watching because of this guy, or in 10 years, I'm still watching because of this guy?
I don't think anybody that I'm currently interested now will be around in 10 years, 5 years, 10 years. No.
Okay. I got another question, a quick question I want you guys. So hit me up on this one. Is there any character gimmick that you can see lasting 20 years from now, currently? Like The Fiend. Do you see The Fiend having a run similar to The Undertaker?
For 20 more years?
15. Something like that.
See, I can see that gimmick going a long time, but I don't think no one's going to recreate the Undertaker streak like that, like that longevity. I could see, I could see, I'm just trying to think of how to word that. I think The Fiend will go at least probably another 5 years.
Because you know what? You look at, here's my point. Wrestling characters and gimmicks and what have you nowadays, they don't last as long as they used to, which I know that makes me sound like, oh man. But take a guy like Sting, okay? The Sting character, it evolved. Right. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can't just be thinking about what the iteration they are in now. You got to look at if they evolved a little bit here and there, if they would last this long. Sting had a good run. He lasted from, like, we'll say 87, 88, 89, all the way to, a couple years ago, 2014, True. Right?
Yep.
So a lot of old wrestlers could make their gimmick last by evolving and adding touches and
I agree.
Changing this and that. Is there anyone in wrestling, gimmick-wise, personality-wise, what have you, that you could see lasting another 10 or 15 years, 20 years? And I don't mean like a guy just being in it, playing himself. Like a Chris Jericho, he evolved a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument for like guys like Daniel Bryan have been able to do that, AJ Styles, but I don't know anyone new or.
No, I think like guys to me like Ziggler is one of them. Dolph Ziggler he's evolved. He's done his part over and over again. I think he can last another maybe 5 to 10 years of what he's been doing right now. If he still tries to adapt and stay current.
I got one, but I don't know, like, because he's young. I could see like an MJF having an extended run in the business.
Okay.
Duly noted. Here's one quick thing I just want you to think about right now. Obviously, this doesn't work out for the podcast, but Mike, behind you, you have a poster of WrestleMania 23. I want you to take a quick look at that. There's only one guy on that poster that wrestles today.
It's Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, and that's not because his career was so great that it's lasting this long. It's because he was young. But you look at that poster, not one of those guys are active today, and that poster has John Cena on it. It has Batista on it.
Actually, I was gonna point out that was one of the big moments in my Undertaker fandom. That one of the big moments. I saw him twice do two things. One, Survivor Series, my first ever live pay-per-view, and this one, winning the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 23. But you're right, Derek. I never even thought of that.
I mean, in fairness, Cena did last 20 years.
He did. He did adapt and he did evolve as well.
My point being is that I don't know. Wrestling just changes so much,
right?
That it ever evolves.
See, here's the thing. here's the thing too. I'll have to say this. You know, myself, I like reading the the books of how it used to be, biographies of guys that I used to watch DVDs, you know, of the, you know, there are a lot of good things in the wrestling industry right now. A lot of great characters, a lot of good things happening. But nothing to make me say, you know, I'm going to continue religiously. You know, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, The Rock, Austin, you know, Triple H to a point. I guess, you know, Kane, you know, those guys, those names, you know, they're the legacy of pro wrestling. They're the ones that, you know, I remember Bret Hart, Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle.
Okay, you're just naming guys now. I think what wrestling really lacks right now, and this is every promotion, is star power. They really need that one guy, that one person that resonates with the crowd, whether it be a gimmick or an actual person.
That's why I was naming the star power. Yes. But anyways.
But regardless, let's put a bow on this.
I think the frustrating part is, just to end it, is the business financially is doing very well. WWE's record profits every year. AEW's, they're making some profit, but we're not making new stars, like big stars.
No, that's true. You're right.
And just like the Undertaker, we will put a nail in the coffin of this show. Next week, we're going to continue with the regular format of picking a match, and it is Mr. Bill Belichick, Michael Punga's choice. So, Mike, please enlighten us. What are you going to subject us to watch next week?
All right. So, I've chosen a match on a great era of the 80s in wrestling, and on the same line as we were talking about Memphis Wrestling and Jerry the King Lawler, Matt. I have chosen from AWA Super Clash 3.
No way!
1988.
Really?
December 13th, 1988, the championship unification match. Jerry the King Lawler versus Kerry Von.
This is awesome. Mike.
Love it.
Mike.
So,
Mike.
Yeah.
Look at this. I want you to look at my phone right here, okay?
Yeah.
Can you see this? Matches to review. What's number one?
Jerry Lawler versus Kerry
It's that match. Number one. It's on my matches to review.
I thought,
good job. Good job, Mike.
Stick with Jerry Lawler and kind of reference and watch one of his famous matches. I know you guys. I know whoever has or whoever owns the Greatest Wrestling Stars of the 80s DVD will have this match. So who's ever listening and wants to watch along with us for next week, that is the one we're reviewing. So 1980.
About like 3 months ago. And that was number one on my list, and I was holding it. It was a bullet. It was a bullet in my revolver that I was going to bust out one week. So good job, Mike.
That match, that would be great. I can't wait. I've seen it a few times. I love that match.
So now we all have something to look forward to next week. Yep. I'm Derek. That is Mr. Matt Pepper and Mr. Michael Punga. We will have a super clash of a podcast next week. Jerry Lawler, Kerry Von Erich. We'll see you then.